Good morning, everyone. I'm Flora Martin, and I'm Chair of Carers Scotland. Welcome to the Carers Summit for 2022, your chance to have your say about what really matters to carers. Just before we start, can I ask you to ensure that you're all muted? Can I tell you that the main sessions in the event are going to be recorded to share later with people who can't come. And obviously things happen on the day and there might be quite a lot of you who can't come. It doesn't include the breakout sessions. So if you don't want to be seen on the screen, you can put your camera off now. And when it's time to go into the breakout sessions, we'll tell you what to do. Okay, so welcome everybody that is here. We know that it's been a tremendously difficult year. Indeed, it's 2 years now, and in fact, almost to the day since the pandemic broke out and we were locked down. Caring during the pandemic has increased the impact of caring on carers. There's absolutely no doubt about that. Their health, not just their physical health, but their mental health, employment, their education, finances. And Carers Scotland has been working hard to try and respond to these challenges and ensure that the government and service providers understand and respond to carers' needs, which are diverse and multiple. Nearly 400,000 people became carers during the pandemic, and many will continue with that caring journey because with long COVID and a lot of complications that some people may have had, it's going to be tough. Many of people who have taken on a caring role are doing it for the first time, often with little or no support. So later in the agenda, you'll hear more about some of Carers Scotland and Carers UK's work, which includes working with the Scottish Government on the consultation on Scottish carers assistance and in seeking a COVID recovery plan for carers, which will form part of the Scottish Carers strategy. Okay, as I said, I'm Flora Martin. I am the Chair of Carers Scotland. I'm delighted to say that Ben MacPherson, our Minister for Social Security and Local Government, is able to join us today. He was appointed after the elections in May last year. He grew up in Edinburgh before studying for a BA Honours degree in Philosophy and Politics at the University of York. And after graduating, he returned to Edinburgh and worked in a number of different roles before going on to complete a postgraduate law degree and a diploma in legal practice at the University of Edinburgh. He then qualified, something's going wrong here. He then qualified as a solicitor and practiced as a lawyer with one of Scotland's large commercial firms. As well as his legal training, Ben has worked in financial services for an NGO, in renewable energy, in a school and in hospitality. So he's got masses of experience of all sorts of different things. Throughout his career, Ben has been a committed political activist, and in 2016, this culminated in being elected as MSP for the Edinburgh Northern and Leith constituency, where he lives. Ben's going to tell us a bit about the new consultation on Scottish Carers Assistance, which will replace Carers Allowance in Scotland. Over to you, Ben, and thank you.
Ben's on mute.
Sorry about that. I unmuted myself, but maybe that wasn't what I was meant to do. So apologies all. Hi, Flora. Nice, and everyone. Thanks for that kind introduction. And I'll start again just by first of all saying good morning to everyone and how much of a pleasure it is to be with you. And thanks for the time and your agenda today, and for the invitation from Carers Scotland to come and speak with you and be with you this morning for this important event. As Flora's outlined in our introduction, and to those who don't know me, I've been the Minister for Social Security and Local Government in the Scottish Government since May, and it's been great to work with Carers Scotland and other carers organisations since that appointment during this important time. First of all, just want to emphasise that in my role as a Minister and also as a constituency MSP, I'm very grateful for the opportunities that I've had in that time to meet with carers in my local area and from across Scotland in my ministerial capacity and responsibility to hear about their experiences, to hear about your experiences. And in these discussions, like my colleagues are too, I'm always struck and moved by the commitment and dedication day in, day out of unpaid carers. And I know for some of you, it can often feel like your effort and sacrifices are either overlooked or not properly valued. And I know that the role has been made even harder during the pandemic, as Flora emphasised as well. But I can assure you that, and I hope you feel this more and more, that the Scottish Government is both well aware and very much recognises and is significantly grateful for everything that you do. We absolutely recognise and appreciate your immense contribution and the impact that the support you provide has for your family members, your friends, and importantly, our wider society, and that cannot be overstated. That is why one of the first changes we made with our new social security powers here in Scotland back in 2018 was to introduce the Carers Allowance Supplement. This immediately increased Carers Allowance for carers in Scotland by 13%, and since then has been received by around 126,000 carers across the country. It was very encouraging to see in our evaluation of the supplement that it has not only helped to improve carers' finances and feelings of well-being, but has also helped carers feel more valued and recognised, and we absolutely wanted that to be the case. I was glad that also that one of the first actions I was able to do as Minister for Social Security and Local Government was to make an extra coronavirus carers allowance supplement payment in December last year. The legislation that we took through, I think, was important to make sure that we were able to do this, so that last year eligible carers in Scotland received almost £700 more than those in the rest of the UK. This was the second extra payment that we have made following the first in June 2020 under the emergency coronavirus legislation. And the payments recognise the added pressure on unpaid carers, on you, due to the pandemic, and I'm happy to hear of the positive impact that extra resource has made. We also recognise the very important contribution of carers aged 16 to 18 and the challenges that they face, and that's why in October 2019 we introduced the Young Carer Grant, the only benefit of its kind in the UK, and as many of you will know, it provides over £300 to young carers to use as they like, to help them across the country and to help them access opportunities that are the norm for people of their age. All that being said, I know that just as we are trying to recover from the pandemic, the rising cost of living has become a real worry for carers. And in recognition of this pressure, we have sought to act in recent weeks as quickly as possible. And that's why we are taking action to increase several forms of devolved assistance by 6%. And this includes the Carers Allowance Supplement and also the Young Carer Grant. So we hope that increase of 6% will make an important difference at this time. These changes to provide carers with more financial support are of course important, but I think it's also worth mentioning that the Scottish Government has also been working to improve the support and services available to all unpaid carers, not just those eligible for Social Security. And that's why since 2010, we've invested over £32 million in the Short Breaks Fund, run by Shared Care Scotland and the Family Fund. The fund helps unpaid carers to take a break from their caring roles And this could be a short trip away, IT equipment, or arts and crafts supplies, whatever helps people switch off. And I hope that's been a welcome investment. It is crucial that you as carers are supported to have a life alongside caring, and that you are able to sustain and improve your health and well-being as well. And that's why the government brought forward the Carers Act to enhance and extend the rights of all adult carers and young carers to support across the country, all of you in that regard. And this includes each carer's right to a personalised plan to identify what is important to them. We are also committed to giving a strong voice to unpaid carers, listening to your needs and acting on what you tell us. And that's why we will publish a standalone carer strategy with a focus on coronavirus recovery and improving carer support in a meaningful and sustainable way. And you will be hearing more about the strategy later today and its focus on your needs, setting out how policies across the Scottish Government can work together with other public bodies to support you as we recover collectively from the pandemic and beyond. Which leads me on to our new benefit, Scottish Carers Assistance, which, as many of you will know, will replace Carers Allowance in the period ahead. Already, Social Security Scotland is delivering 12 benefits, including 7 new and unique benefits, such as the Scottish Child Payment and Child Winter Heating Assistance. And we're also delivering improved replacement benefits like Child Disability Payment and our Adult Disability Payment, which launched on Monday in its first pilot phase, taking new applications in the City of Dundee, Perth and Kinross and the Western Isles from Monday. Some of you may already have experience of these new benefits, and I know you will be particularly interested in the improvements to disability benefits. And launching Scottish Carers Assistance is then going to be one of our top priorities in the period ahead, along with extending the Scottish Child Payment to 6 to 16-year-olds and also introducing our low-income winter heating benefit. I'm happy to say that work has already begun with the Department of Work and Pensions to see how quickly we can deliver Scottish Carers Assistance, and we want to do it as quickly as possible. And I hope to be able to share things with you all soon on that progress. It's very important that we get this right, though, given the complex links between Carers Allowance and other UK government benefits. And our work on Scottish Carers Assistance builds on the progress we have already made for unpaid carers that I've outlined already. We have been listening to and working with carers, and that's so important, and also the organisations who support them, support you to and working with all of those individuals and organisations to develop our proposals. And I want to personally thank anyone here who may have been part of that work. Your views and expertise are key and will remain key to ensuring that we get this new benefit right for unpaid carers in Scotland. Key to our approach is that social security is a human right, but we are building a better and more compassionate social security system based on the principles of dignity, fairness and respect, and also making sure we build our new system in a strong and responsible way. Last month, we launched our consultation on Scottish Carers Assistance, and in it we set out how we plan to deliver an improved benefit from the start. We know that carers already have busy and demanding lives, and we want applying for and getting support to be as simple and stress-free as it can, with a system that offers flexibility to fit in and around your other priorities. We are, of course, always looking at how we can better support for carers. So firstly, by linking carers to support that is already out there, like Carers Scotland hosting today's event, and also making sure you're all informed of the changes to your benefits. We've heard how positive these services can be, both in supporting carers' well-being and allowing for a life outside caring, but also supporting the cared for person, of course. We also want to ensure support remains available when the person being cared for is challenging a change to their disability benefits. And to those of you who care for more than one person, you have told us of the additional pressures that this can bring. And so to help you, we plan to create a new payment of £520 per year for those caring for more than one person. This is in addition to keeping the extra support provided through Carers Allowance Supplement. I can assure you that we don't underestimate the scale of the challenge in delivering Scottish Carers Assistance, and we realise how important it is that any changes we make don't do anything that would inadvertently risk the support that carers already get, including from benefits provided by the Department for Work and Pensions. We also don't want to create a two-tier system, and that's really important because we need to make sure that we don't create a two-tier system which would disadvantage carers who are already getting carers allowance when we launch our new benefit. And we also, of course, because we have a process, of course, to transfer people into our system as well as launching our new benefit. This is why some of the changes we propose in the consultation would be made after the safe and secure transfer of benefits is complete, once all carers are getting Scottish Carers Assistance from Social Security Scotland and not carers allowance from the Department for Work and Pensions. We will keep looking for ways to make changes sooner if we can, and to do so without risk to carers' current benefits. These changes include our priorities of, firstly, helping to remove barriers to education by allowing carers to be in full-time education and support. Secondly, allowing carers to add together hours spent caring for more than one person to qualify for support. Thirdly, extending support after the loss of a cared for person or when a cared for person is in hospital, and also enabling carers to earn more from paid work while getting support by increasing the earnings limit. So those are some of the changes we are looking to make when we can, through the process of also considering moving everyone into our system safely and securely. We're also aware that a number of carers, particularly carers who get a state pension, feel a loss of recognition for their important role when payments of carers allowance stop. And we have looked at how we could address these concerns. And the consultation explains our work and invites views on a new policy idea to introduce a payment for long-term carers, recognising that the impacts of caring increase with time. This policy is still in development, but such a payment could be made to those who receive carers allowance or have an underlying entitlement. We would also like to hear your views on how our work on Scottish Carers Assistance can help to address inequality and poverty, and how we can remove barriers to support. We know the majority of Scotland's unpaid carers are women, and are the majority of people getting carers allowance. And we also know that women already face a gender pay gap and are more likely to have been affected by previous benefit changes and the impacts of the pandemic. So in making changes to our carer benefits, we have the opportunity to make a difference to support for women in particular, but we also want to understand more about how our work can have a positive impact on wider groups and reach more carers. The consultation also recognises that our work to deliver Scottish Carers Assistance is just one of a range of work already underway, a range of initiatives, such as the introduction of a national care service and work to look at a minimum income guarantee for all, which have the potential to deliver significant improvements for carers over and above what we will do with Scottish Carers Assistance. As highlighted earlier, future plans to support carers will be set out in our carer strategy, which as a government we will publish in the late spring. We want not only to deliver a better benefit with Scottish Carers Assistance from day one, but also a benefit that will continue to improve and evolve to meet the needs of carers in the future based on your views and feedback. So that's why I'm really pleased to have the chance to have said something about it today, but also this opportunity to encourage everyone to look at our consultation and to share any views you have. It is open until the 23rd of May, and your input will help us to improve what we're doing collectively in terms of introducing a new benefit, but also to ensure that we get this important benefit right for the people of Scotland. Thank you again for the opportunity to set out some of what we're doing and what we are consulting on doing with Scottish Carers Assistance. Your feedback and input is really important in this regard, and everything you do for the benefit of those you care for and for Scotland as a whole is recognised. So thank you for your time today, for everything you do as a carer and someone who helps to support our unpaid carers. And I wish you well for the rest of today's discussion, and to see you another time soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben, for that very comprehensive explanation of the Scottish Government's intentions for carers, the new carers assistance. As Ben said, this is your opportunity to influence what happens, and we're going to now go into a breakout session about the carers assistance consultation. Now, you'll see an invitation to join a breakout room from the meeting host. Just click join to whichever one you've been allocated. And 5 minutes before the end, a message will come up to say it's nearing the end. Don't do anything. That message is for the facilitator. Don't you do anything with that. And at the end of the session, you'll see an option to leave breakout room and join the main room. That will happen automatically if you don't click it within 60 seconds. And once that happens, just switch off your camera and your microphone and come back when Patricia Clark and William Hodgson will talk to us about their new CareFit app that's being developed by the University of Strathclyde. Thank you very much, everybody, and thank you very much, Ben. That was fantastic.
Hello. Right, picture time. How do I close that?
Sorry about that with the mute. I think I must have pressed the button and then somebody tried to unmute me, so I apologise for that.
I was looking at myself and then suddenly Christine's picture came up and I didn't know whether I was still supposed to be speaking or what I was meant to be doing. So anyway, I'm sure it was okay.
I'm sure it was as well.
That was really comprehensive, Ben. That was fantastic.
Thanks. Well, thanks to Andrew and the rest of the team who helped draft it as well. So I'm glad it was clear. Quite a lot of detail to get over and different overlapping things. So I just tried to be as clear as possible, you know.
Well, the thing is, it's been recorded, so people can watch it again and take, you know, make notes and take things from it, which, you know, will be good. And of course, Fiona's fantastic, our head of policy and public affairs. Yeah. So that will be disseminated down into the membership.
Yeah, absolutely. And we just want as much feedback as possible because, you know, a lot of thought and evaluation has gone into the changes we're looking to make. There's just this dual process that we'll also have to go through of what changes we can make in the immediate when we introduce it, but also what we'll need to consider for a longer time, because we need to bring people into our system so that we don't have some people getting something that's more advantageous in our system and some people in the DWP system. So it's the same with disability benefits. We've got to safely and securely transfer people in. So it's just getting over that dual process. And obviously we'll try to transfer people as quickly as we can, but it's a huge exercise, and we need to get it absolutely right so that people are safely transferred and then get their benefits in the same way that they would expect. Anyway, sorry, am I talking too much and we need to take a photograph?
I don't know what are you doing, Edward?
I'm just sorting out a couple of people who've disappeared and come back in, and I'll be with you in 30 seconds.
Okay. Nobody can hear us talking, can they?
There's a couple of people, it'll be fine. And it's all stuff that people would want to hear anyway.
It's a fantastic, excuse me, it's a fantastic job. I'm sure you're delighted.
Yeah, it's a real chance to make a difference for a lot of people, which is everything that drove me into politics. So I'm very pleased, and I've got really great teams working with me. So both in terms of talent and motivation. So it's a real privilege, and having worked on the bill as well through 2016 to 2018, I feel like now to be implementing it is a real pleasure, privilege.
Well, that's fantastic. Not many people do get that opportunity.
No.
And,
we'll wait to see if the Chancellor does anything in his statement today, because it's going to need action, really.
absolutely.
Just wondering where things are at for this picture.
Right. I am now with you, so I apologise. So if I'm having to cut and paste, so if you can give me sort of hold it for about 5 seconds, and it should hopefully work. Okay, and let me save that, and we'll have to have one more for safety. Please save. And go. That's brilliant. Thank you so much.
Okay. Okay, Ben. Well, thanks again.
So thank you, and I hope it goes well for the rest of today. And as things are, well, obviously the pandemic's still really challenging, but I hope at some point in the period ahead we might be able to all meet each other in person. Yourself and Fiona and Richard and people like that. I'd really value that at some point. So
no, that would be great. I would too. Thank you very much for that offer. I'll speak to Fiona about that. Maybe she can sort something out with your people later for carers.
Thank you. Thanks, Flora. Okay, so as Flora said, I'm the Development and Training Manager for Carer Scotland. And before I introduce Bill, who'll talk about the CareFit app, I just wanted to highlight that we've worked with the Strathclyde University's Digital Health and Wellness team over a number of years on different carer initiatives and projects. So really what I love about this team is their genuine interest and commitment in providing and looking for digital solutions to support carers, and of course ensuring you guys are involved every step of the way. So really at this point, I'm just going to pass you over to Bill, and he can tell you more about the carer exercise app they're currently working on now. So over to you, Bill.
Thanks, Patricia, and good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for inviting us along. I'm just going to try and share my screen. The admins hopefully just set that up. Can everybody see the PowerPoint presentation?
No.
No. No.
No.
No, okay. That now?
No. Yes.
Yes.
Yes, good, yes. Technology and me are not the best at times. There we go. Thank you. Thanks very much, Patricia. My name is Bill Hodgson, and I work at the University of Strathclyde, and we've been working very, very closely with Patricia on our CareFit app. And I'll just take you through briefly what's involved in that and the project and where we are and within the kind of whole process, first of all. So first of all, the core team was made up mainly with the lead investigator for this has been Kieran Egan, and I am one of the research associates or assistants supporting Kieran. Kieran's been very, very passionate about doing work with carers, unpaid caregivers. Dementia is his other passion. A great guy to work with, but it was his kind of concept. The other members of the team is Dr. Alison Kirk. She's my supervisor. I'm presently doing a PhD in physical activity for health at the University of Strathclyde, and Alison is a reader in physical activity for health and is actually my supervisor. We've got Dr. Mark Dunlop, who's one of the lecturers within the computer department, and he's been doing a lot of the technical stuff in the background with the app development. And we've also as well got Professor Sharon McGuire, who kind of leads up the kind of digital health team within the computer department. It's a really, really good team and very, very passionate about this project. Just a little bit of a kind of background and where we're coming from for this. And I'm just going to skip through this relatively quickly, a bit opportunity for a few questions at the end. But basically, and you'll probably know some of the figures anyway, but within Scotland, we presently have approximately 700,000 informal caregivers in Scotland. I'll just move this out of the way, just with that. Again, some of the kind of the research background into this, 72% of carers in the UK said that they suffer some type of mental ill health as a result of their caring. And another 61% go on to say that they've also suffered in relation to their physical activity because of their caring duties, which is why we thought we'd try and develop this app, try and eliminate that gap to some extent as well. A little bit about the kind of background with this. So the initial funding for this project came about because of COVID lockdown. And again, carers were probably more isolated as a result of that. It also probably made it more difficult for them to get out and be physically active, even just going outside and going for the walks and meeting up with other people. So we got a grant through the Chief Medical Officer in Scotland to take this project along with support from Carer Scotland and particularly with Patricia. The app itself is basically developed on models and kind of guidance, and particularly the physical activity guidelines in the UK that are set up for children, adults and for older adults. And that's the kind of background in what we're trying to get carers to particularly lead up to try and get themselves more physically active. And as we've already said, it's been co-designed right the way through. We've had meetings, co-design sessions with carers, with care support groups, and more recently with the latest development of this, we've actually as well been involved with co-design sessions with various different organisations as well, and that's been valuable for the development of the app. I know this looks a little bit complex. I'll kind of make it a bit simpler first of all, but basically the app itself is really three main components. So we've got the physical activity element of it. We've got an education section, which we kind of threw in at the last minute, but I'll give you a bit of the background with that. It's actually been kind of better received than we initially thought, though there's still a bit of development to be done in relation to that. And we've also as well potentially got a communication element as well. And there's a lot of theory goes into the kind of background of this, again, with the physical activity guidelines and kind of psychological behaviour change interventions as well that go into that kind of process. I'll not break that down any further, but I'll kind of make it a little bit more simple for you. So as I said, basically the app has these main core elements. We've got a main menu, we've got the physical activity element, which I'll explain to you. We've got an education element, communication element, and there's a little knowledge quiz just to test the knowledge of carers in relation to what they've learned in relation to physical activity, mental health, and potentially mindfulness and well-being as well. So on the left there, we have the kind of first version of this. It was a basic concept, basic icons were used and all the rest of it, but at the end of the day, allowed us to develop the kind of concept overall. And this is the main menu at the front of it. So the main menu on it allows you to take you to a planner where you can plan your activities. It takes you onto the education section. I'll go into a little bit more detail in a minute. There's also a facility on it to set reminders, so you can remind yourself when you maybe want to do an activity. And the other element that we're still in the process of developing is you're able to share your progress if you want, and potentially link into kind of social media if you want to speak to other carers as well. As I say, that is still to be developed. Moving on though, we are now in the stage where we have received further funding, significant further funding, to take this into a more commercial based project. And you can see on the right hand side the difference in the look and the kind of feel of the app overall. And this is kind of latest version. I can't show you all because I've already noticed that one or two of you are potentially going to be involved in the co-design sessions, and we're looking for your views and your feedback. So I'd love to show you the kind of basic concept just now, but the look and feel of this looks a lot more professional. And we're quite happy with the kind of developments going on through a company called AdJam that are doing the kind of professional development of this in the background. So the physical activity element. So basically what we have within that, and I'll show you a very, very quick clip of a video just in a minute. But again, it's based on these physical activity guidelines. The national ones are set out in the UK. So there are exercises for doing cardiorespiratory exercises, which is basically getting your heart rate going and your breathing and things going. The other side of it as well is we also have exercises for muscle and balance, which is particularly important as we get older. But even for young adults, it's really, really important as well. And again, there's a series of videos we've got for that. We've also got sedentary breakers as well. So that's basically breaking up your time when you're sitting for long periods, and it's a major health risk factor for everybody in the population as well. And as I've already said, we've got planners and reminders. The educational element, the theory behind that is basic. I don't want to get too much into the kind of the research behind the background, but there's a psychological model called the trans-theoretical model, and it's basically been used quite successfully for behaviour change interventions, particularly with the NHS. And it was initially set up to stop people smoking. It's been used for drug addiction, but more recently it's been used to get people to change their behaviour in relation to physical activity. And with the support of counsellors in the background, it's very, very successful. But it's really geared for people that don't do a lot of exercises and beginning to contemplate and think about doing it. And I won't go into too much detail about it overall, but there's quite a big section. There's a lot of writing in the version that we've got that you can see on your screen here. This is the kind of most up-to-date one with all the theory on it. But our plan is long-term to develop this into more user-friendly videos and audio sections, potentially get carers to present some of this section for us in video format, so it becomes less of a read. There's also as well within it tasks that you can complete, and you can keep a note of your goals, what you achieved, things like your barriers and stuff and all the rest of it. But as I say, it was very well received actually in the first stage, and it's just a nice little thing to kind of work your way through before you actually do the physical activity element of it. And as I briefly touched on, we've got the communication element. So the idea initially was, just as you can see on the screen there, I know it's a very, very basic icon, things will change, but this is like a certificate to say, well done, you've achieved your goals this week in relation to either the education section by finishing elements of that or your physical activity. And it would allow you to share that with friends, relatives, and other people you want to do. The idea though long term as well is to start filtering into care support groups and potentially filter into things like your Facebook, social media, Twitter, whatever you feel you want to do, though there will be the facility to not do that if you don't want to. And some people just like to keep themselves to themselves for various different reasons. Right, I'm just going to try and I'll show you the video at the very, very end, folks, rather than just jumping out of the PowerPoint just now. And at the very end as well, we have a quiz which just tests your knowledge in relation to what you've learned throughout the kind of process. And it's a nice, simple kind of multiple choice type thing. Again, if you feel that you want to do that as well. So where we are, again, I know this looks very, very complex, but basically this is just the timeline that we have here. So the middle line is the timeline of the kind of project. So I first came on board, it was about 2020, I think, Patricia, if I remember right, when we first started this. I've been working remotely on it. I've developed this, and then say more recently, coming into the start of this year, other funding has become available. We're now into the kind of second phase of this. And the prototype should be ready for the co-design sessions about May, maybe June time this year. And we'll again be looking to recruit carers, care support workers to give us some kind of feedback on that, so we can then further develop the app and get it more user friendly. And I think the long-term aim as well to get a commercially developed dementia project as well is in kind of Kieran's kind of thinking with that. I'll leave the questions just now. I want to very, very quickly just show you the video, so I'll need to jump off the PowerPoint. Again, can we see this, folks?
Hi everyone, welcome to your March workout. So it's a 5-minute cardio.
Sorry, can we see this?
No.
We can hear it, but we can't see it.
Right, thanks. Is that it?
Yes.
Great, excellent. I'll not go through this. The videos are about 5 minutes long. This is Kat from the University Sports Centre that was very, very kindly, she's done work with carers actually in the past, but very kindly developed these videos. So I'll give you a brief introduction just to these.
Before you get started, please make sure that you're fit and able to be exercising today. Make sure you've got plenty of water on hand and that you stay hydrated throughout the workout. And lastly, particularly for this one, as we will be marching forward, just make sure you've got plenty of space around you and that you haven't got anything you could slip, trip or fall over for your workout today. So we're going to be starting with a heart raiser. So it's going to be a slow march. So for this one, we're raising the knee almost in line with the hip. The hands come up to the shoulders, the chest stays nice and solid, and we bring the knee nice and high.
What am I supposed to be doing exercise as well?
If you would like to, you can keep the hands resting on the hips or to the side, or you can follow me and bring them in like I'm doing. If you drop the hands to the side, it will make the exercise that bit easier.
Okay, folks.
I will say there was a question and in the chat about how you want this app or how this app is being developed differently to general fitness apps that already exist.
Yeah, so yes, we've been very, very keen to make sure that this isn't your normal fitness app. As it goes back to, it's really aimed at people who aren't doing a lot of physical activity or even just beginning to think about doing that. And throughout it, we've changed the wording again with support from Patricia and from the co-design groups. We've been changing the wording within a lot of the elements to make them carer friendly and mentioning, you know, the benefits of doing this. So, you know, I'm actually in the process of developing kind of warm up and cool down exercises, but these can be used on their own, say, for example, after a heavy day's work, heavy day's caring, particularly if you're lifting people or lifting heavy things. And it just allows you to do a little bit of relaxation. So it is different. It's not geared up for your super fit people like your Stravas or your Garmin type things. It's geared up for carers specifically.
I would also say there's going to be links, or we hope there's going to be links to carer support and other carer information throughout the app, running through the app too.
Even the
And
woman from
earlier
Kent
this
is
year,
laughing at me.
earlier this year we had, I think it was about almost 50 people in a co-design session, and a good fraction of them were carers and other health, social care, voluntary sector too. So it is just about getting the right balance of co-design and getting the right people and getting carers specifically in, and doing wider testing phases as well. So hopefully there's going to be a lot to differentiate it from just a general exercise app, and there'll be lots of different things carers can find information from, and our own, for example, our own active carer website that we've got that Carers UK have developed as well. Hopefully we'll be linking in with that too. So it is going to be something that looks hopefully a little bit different. Is there any other questions so many carers don't have access to equipment to use apps. Perhaps this is something Scottish Government could look into as one of the chats. If you had much input from young adult carers, Bill, what's been your thinking around the age group of this app?
We've ended up with you know, quite a lot with the co-design sessions, a kind of spread right across the various different age groups, and we've had that discussion. So yes, we might be developing the app within sections for specific age groups if we feel there's going to be a need for that as we move forward.
Okay, thanks. I'm not sure if we have, how will the app be evaluated? We'll say that as our last kind of question, because I think we've run out of time. So how will it be evaluated, Bill?
Well, again, it's part of the research process, Patricia, with that. Again, it's down to the feedback that we get from carers and the co-design sessions. So when you know, the app will be developed at various different stages, we will be asking carers to use it and to provide feedback in relation to that. And that goes into the development, but it'll also go into the kind of academic side of things, because there will be research papers published at the end of this as well.
And I believe there's going to be a 12-week testing period. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, thanks everyone. Flora, do you want to thank you so much, Bill, for coming? Really appreciate that. And Flora, I'm back over to you.
Yes, thanks, Bill. Thanks, Patricia. Having been a carer myself, I don't think we get a lot of time to sit down. But then again, these exercises have obviously been properly worked out to make sure that people stay on top of the game. Thank you both very much. Okay, we're now going to have a chat about the carer strategy, and that includes the COVID recovery plan. The Scottish Government recently announced that they would produce a new carer strategy, and that will include actions for COVID recovery. Fiona Colley, who is our Head of Policy and Public Affairs for Scotland and Northern Ireland, and Sharon McGuire from the Scottish Government Carers Policy Branch are here to tell you a bit about that. And then that will be followed up by another breakout session where you can air your views on what you think is important going forward. So the same ideas as before about the breakout session. Join the rooms to discuss your 3 main priorities for the carer strategy. Okay, over now to Fiona and Sharon.
Hi, do you want me just to kick off then, Fiona?
Yes, please.
Sure that. Can everybody see the presentation? This is going to be a very short presentation to leave kind of a lot of room for discussion rather than just presenting to people. If you just go to the next slide, that's just obviously just an overview slide. So just as way of introduction, the Scottish Government is committed to developing and publishing a national carer strategy. This will have an immediate focus on COVID recovery and look at longer term challenges and what we can do to help make things better. The Minister asked for this to be done quite quickly, so you'll notice the thing that sticks out in that slide is really that we aim to publish it by late spring this year, which I think the last day of spring is probably about 20th of June or something like that. And it doesn't leave a lot of kind of time for, I suppose, discussion. But the reason the Minister's asked for this to be done so quickly is because of obviously the extreme pressure carers and carer organisations are under. And we just feel that something has to happen pretty quickly because, you know, everybody's on their knees at this point and we need to take some action. What's come out of some of the kind of stakeholder events I've been involved in is we may want to look at almost like a two-prong approach to this. So looking at, say, pandemic recovery plans as immediate priority with a longer term strategy following on from that. Nothing's been decided on that yet. We're just still taking soundings on it from people like yourselves that know best how we should approach it. So it'll be interesting to hear your thoughts today in the breakout sessions. So back a bit through. So thank you. So why are we doing it really? So the purpose of why we're doing it is we need to do something now. We all appreciate that, and you know, as a government and ministers have listened to people, you know, saying how desperate things are getting, or not how they're getting, how they've been, and you know that they need some action now. So that's the reason why we're doing it. And also, I don't know how many people be familiar with, there was a carers strategic policy statement that was publicly consulted on in autumn 2019. And this really provided a map of policies across the Scottish Government which supported carers. Now, I understand that the publication of the final document was postponed due to the pandemic. And obviously the kind of position on a lot of things has now been shifting rapidly since then. But I also understand through the consultation that stakeholders confirmed that they would like something like a strategic document with a specific carer focus to send a clear message about what the key outcomes the Scottish Government is working towards for carers across Scotland. So that is in a sense the kind of underpinning the kind of strategy as well, and I suppose how it's going to help shape what that is and take on board obviously what was said in the consultation. So who is it for? Well, first and foremost, it's for carers. And what I'm kind of keen to do as well is so that carers can pick this strategy up once it's completed and published, and get a sense of how the different policies, funding, services and things like that all knit together to help, or should be helping to make things better for them. And for me, that's why it's really key that carers are involved and at the heart of the strategy. I mean, I've met with quite a lot of carers over the last couple of months, and I think it's really important we don't lose sight of why we're doing this. I've got some case studies. I'll be using like quotes and things like that in the strategy just to kind of bring it to life a bit as well. So it's not just a kind of strategic document. People just think it's not any good to them. So it would again be interesting to get your take on how I achieve that, because I want it to be balanced between being something that other people, you know, like kind of officials can pick up to see where they fit in, but also where carers can see the value in it. Local services as well will be able to use it in terms of like carer centres and statutory bodies, and also see how the strategy and how the local and national strategies fit together to help carers. They'll also be able to see the different elements that are in place, or the actions that should be there to get them into place, to help them have a complete picture of the help available to carers over like kind of various areas like employment, education, social security. And lastly, for our kind of position in a national level within Scottish Government, this will allow a lot of the policy teams within, you know, the government to see how their own work fits with carers, because carers straddle so much of what's going on just now in government, but sometimes you just need to highlight that with certain policy teams within the Scottish Government, just so that they can see where their own policy has an impact. So already kind of making good headway with that. As I said, it's just about joining up, making sure, as I said, employability, education, social security, getting it right for every child, all these things like kind of come together, and that carers are at the forefront of kind of what people are thinking about when they're making these policies, or creating actions and things like that. And lastly is why we're doing it. Obviously, we know the pandemic's been awful for carers, but I've in carer organisations, but I know that it's been pretty bad before that as well. And for me, I'm just newly joined the team, carers policy team, in August there, and hearing some of the stories about the kind of pressure and challenges that people are facing, it's been quite tough really, but obviously not as tough as what it is carrying them out. So for me, I'm really keen to kind of get that feedback. I know it will be harsh and things like that, but I really think we need to get that feedback so that we can shape the strategy into something that people can actually use, and it's going to be a useful document. So I don't know, Mal, over at you if you want to.
Yes, yeah. So, work that's carried on so far. So it hasn't started. It hasn't started from zero, because carers have been telling government about what's important to them, and what areas need very close attention. So engagement had already started on that, and further work will be ongoing. There's going to be an outline draft which will be shared with various groups, and I know that Sharon has already met some of the carer strategy, the carer centre managers, and also looking to connect across the various Scottish Government policy areas. And I think that's really important, because carers don't exist in a vacuum of social health and social care. It's across the piece and across government. Just a kind of bit of an idea of some of the things that we'll be asking is one, how you would like to be involved, but also to kind of talk about some of the things that are important about embedding human rights and equalities into it, and embedding carers' views into it. It has to come from carers, and we need to think about things as the landscape has moved on, even from some of the early discussions that we had with the Scottish Government. The issues around cost of living are one that is having a substantial impact on carers. Living with COVID, and COVID rates have very significant issues for carers as well, how quick we can get services back up and running. So everything changes, and has been changing very quickly. So we've had some initial discussions, and we were very pleased, and carers have said really strongly that a COVID recovery plan was needed. So we were very pleased that the strategy will focus its initial actions on living with COVID, and for carers that means a very different thing to the general population, and we really need to understand that and find support that responds to their needs. That carers' voices and their views are at the heart of things. That health and social care support, like short breaks, as well as healthcare for carers, emotionally and physically, is part of this as well. Social and financial inclusion, including employment, and not to forget young carers as part of this, and how do we support young carers, but also those young carers who are transitioning to become adult carers and are making key decisions about their lives. So we're going to hand over to the groups, because really you don't want to hear from me talking. You want to be able to discuss the key priorities for yourselves. So at this point, I will hand over to Flora.
Thanks, thanks Sharon and Fiona. Okay, same rules for the breakout. You'll see the invitation, click join, 5 minutes before, you'll see the announcement, and then just after that, leave the breakout room. I'm sure you've got loads to talk about, and this is your chance, so go for it. Hello. I can't see if everybody's back yet. But it's not showing at the bottom of my screen.
We're getting there, Flora.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it should be coming back in because we just went back in automatically.
Yeah, we did.
Okay. All right. Welcome back, everyone. And thank you. Hopefully you were able to express your views, and those will be taken note of and passed on to Scottish Government. Some of you will already have met Richard Meade in your breakout room, but it gives me great pleasure to introduce him now. He's going to give us an overview of the 21-22 what's next for Carers Scotland. It's his first Carers Summit. Richard joined us just about 3 months ago from Marie Curie, and he's our new director for Scotland. Simon Hodgson retired in December after 10 years, and it's an exciting time for both the charity and to have a new leader in Scotland. So I'll hand over to Richard.
Thanks, Flora. I actually nearly forgot to unmute myself there. Good afternoon, everybody. Firstly, I'm absolutely delighted to be here and to be part of the charity. It's the issue of caring is something that I've been passionate about throughout my career. Flora mentioned I worked for Marie Curie, where I was there for 8 years, and a lot of my work there involved working with families and carers, and the impact that I saw on carers was huge, and it just really shone through to me what an important issue this is. So to get the chance to come here and to work for a leading national carers charity with so many dedicated and committed staff, but also carers and members, it's a huge privilege, and I'm really looking forward to the years ahead and working with everyone to improve the lives of carers. And I have to admit, I've really enjoyed the summit so far today. It's been great having a chance to speak and listen to the views of different people in the 2 breakout rooms that I've been involved in. And it's been a really good morning, and I'm looking forward to getting to know many more of you in the months and weeks ahead. And today gives me an opportunity to review and report on last year's activity by Carers Scotland. And it's great coming to post to see just what a great amount of work the team has done, and in such incredible, difficult circumstances with the pandemic. And I'll also, as well as sort of reviewing what we've been doing, just touch on a few things that we've got coming up in the year. So I'm going to try and share my presentation now. I'm not always the best with technology, so please bear with me, and hopefully I'll get it to work. Can somebody stick a thumb up in the air to tell me that you can see that? Flora, can you see that okay?
Yes, yes, I can.
Brilliant, thanks everybody. So there are 3 main areas of work that I'm going to be reporting on: our Carer Positive scheme, our training and development work, and our policy and public affairs activity. Now, Carer Positive is our accreditation scheme, which aims to encourage employers to create a supportive working environment for carers in the workplace. And the Carer Positive award incorporates 3 levels or stages, from engaged to established through to exemplary. And these awards support employers to progress from an initial level of commitment to embedding a culture of support for carers within the organisation. And I'm sure, as lots of you will know, it was launched in 2014 and is a really incredible scheme that has so far enjoyed a lot of success. And in fact, we're now to the point where we've got 227 organisations across Scotland participating in the scheme, and it's covering nearly 500,000 carers. And the great thing is that a quarter of these organisations have already reached the established or exemplary levels, and so that's really good to see. And we've worked particularly hard in the last year to reach out to some of those big public sector bodies like the NHS and local authorities, and we've currently got 10 NHS boards accredited, and we're already working with at least 2 of the remaining 4 to try and get them on board. And we've already got 2/3 of local authorities accredited as well. And again, we're already working hard to reach out to the rest of them. And we've established a really good local partnerships through carers centres and a strong network of accredited organisations, which we are really pleased with. We've got a really good base to move into this year. And so much of Care Positive's works has traditionally been done face-to-face and in people's place of businesses, as we all did pre-pandemic. And of course, all that had to change. And so the team has worked really, really hard to shift a lot of what we do to being online. And that's included having virtual employer sessions, online presentations and engagement activity, and even giving out the awards virtually on things like Twitter and on Teams calls and Zoom. So we've been able to do all of that, which I think has been great, that we've been able to manage that shift and keep the work going. The pandemic has also created both challenges and opportunities for working carers. And the Care Positive team has been really working hard with employers and more generally to talk about some of those opportunities and positives and to promote the benefits of flexible and hybrid working, not just for carers, but also for employers too, who can realize that they can actually get so much more working with people who are working virtually than perhaps in traditional models of working. So it's been a really good learning exercise for both employers and of great benefit to many carers. And we have been hearing and discussing earlier today about the Scottish Government's new strategy for carers, and we've just had our breakout sessions. And I know that it was brought up in my breakout room, the importance of supporting working carers. And so we really want to see that as a key element of the new strategy. And the Care Positive team has already had conversations with the Scottish Government about that. And we want to see Care Positive and its scheme right at the heart of that strategy and a commitment to working carers. So looking forward, what's next for Care Positive? Well, we already have had some planning sessions, and we've been pulling together some ambitious plans for the year ahead. We're developing new training and promotional materials to support employers, as well as to promote the scheme and how it can make a difference to both carers and employers, so that we can actually grow that number of organisations that are joining Care Positive from 227. We definitely want to get towards 300, and we want to push over 500,000 employees being reached. One of the targets, we want to make sure that we've got all of those NHS boards and all those local authorities and all the carer centres accredited to Care Positive, because they have such huge staff bases and they should be all thinking about how they support carers, because we know that carers, people who are working carers, are often employed in many of these organisations and often at much higher proportions in other sectors and other organisations too. So it's key that we get them on board. And then we'll also look to how we can work on other agendas too. We want to look at things like employability. Lots of people who are carers will want to return to work one day, and being able to support people to be able to work, return to work is a really important part of supporting people to be working carers. Despite COVID, we've also been able to continue to deliver many of our training and development work. And again, having to shift things onto virtual platforms and do things virtually hasn't slowed us down. So we've been really pleased that we've been able to deliver training to over 160 health and social care practitioners and voluntary sector staff, as well as 150 carers. And that's been everything from self-advocacy training to looking at adult support and protection, supporting carers to be representatives on decision-making bodies like health and social care partnerships, as well as bespoke training sessions right across Scotland. It is great that we're starting to move some of these back to face-to-face, but I think we're really keen that we'll be able to continue to offer hybrid approaches and make sure that people can access training and support in lots of different ways now that we have the technology to support that. We're also, you'll have obviously seen the work that we've been doing with Strathclyde on the CareFit programme, which I think is a really exciting app, and it was great to see some feedback already from carers talking about how they would find that of benefit, and it would be good to be able to sort of do some more exercise and to have the support of something like an app to do that. And one of the things we're really keen to continue to do in Care Scotland is work in partnership, and we're always seeking to work with other organisations, whether that's in our training and development work with Care Positive or with our policy public affairs. And we've established some really good partnerships in the last year, and the Strathclyde and CareFit one is a good example of that. But we've also worked with health and social care partnerships, and we work with the national care organisations, we work with other organisations right across Scotland. And looking forward, again, we want to continue to engage and provide lots of training and support to carers and to practitioners and those that work with carers right across Scotland. Again, we've just had a recent planning meeting about what more we can do in this space and how we can make sure that we have lots of opportunities to provide training and support to people. and we've got some ambitious plans for the year ahead. And again, we'll always be seeking to find new partners to work with. One of the sort of success stories actually of the pandemic was being able to launch our digital and virtual Care for a Cuppa programme. And that was across the UK, but we've been able to now launch it in Scotland, and we set that up, and we've actually been able to now provide over 47 meetings and counting. It might even be higher now since I last got that stat. We've had over 250 people attend, and we're going to continue the program, even though we are sort of moving back to doing things face to face. This is an example of being able to continue to do things in a digital way that suits people. And so we're working towards a full program of Care for a Cuppa for the year. And I think that's been it's been great. And I think actually some of the people at the summit today have enjoyed a Care for a Cuppa, and it's great to that it's been able to be set up in Scotland, and look forward to seeing it progress throughout this year. And then policy and campaigns. Well, it's been another incredibly busy year in the world of policy and public affairs and Scottish politics, and particularly last year we obviously had the 2021 Scottish Parliament election. And for that, Carers Scotland, we worked with the other national carer organisations and published a manifesto for carers and young carers. And we met each of the main political parties through that process to discuss those, discuss the priorities. And we were really pleased with actually getting a lot of commitments right across all the political parties and all their manifestos, and in particular with the parties that have formed the government, the SNP and the Green parties. And already some of those commitments we've seen come to fruition. And again, we called for a review of carers allowance and for a new carers assistance benefit to replace carers allowance. And we're already starting conversations, as you've seen today, and consultation is open on that. We called for the additional payment for carers who are caring for more than one person. And again, we can see that's in the proposals for the new carers assistance. And also we called for the doubling to pay a double payment of carers allowance, which was done last December. And again, we've called for additional investment in carers centres as part of that manifesto. And we've seen commitment of 5 million from Scottish Government to that. And again, we've called for support for families with someone in hospital, particularly, and we've seen the introduction of the Young Patients Family Fund as well. So already some of the commitments that we made to, along with the other national carers organisations that we called for, government is listening to us, which is great to see. We launched Research for Carers Week on the impact of lack of breaks, and we found that actually last year 71% of unpaid carers have not had any breaks during the pandemic, which has a huge, massive impact on their physical and mental health. And I think again in some of the chats I've seen throughout today on the sidebar, that carers have mentioned that, and it obviously has huge impact on not only the ability of people to continue to care, but also on their sort of the long-term personal health and well-being as well. And the concerns that we see again, because obviously we still haven't seen services return to the levels they were pre-pandemic, and that again is going to continue to have a huge impact. We published our State of Caring report in 2021, and it also showed the huge challenges that carers are facing. And again, that in that research, the impact of the pandemic on mental and physical health and employment came across in spades. And we saw, particularly in terms of carers in employment, the challenges they're facing trying to juggle both work and caring. 74% of carers said they worried about juggling work and care. 42% of carers that work said returning to the workplace will be challenging. And again, I think that's where we need to promote the idea and the benefits of things like hybrid working, flexible working, supporting employers to support carers. And again, there's always this risk for working carers that they might have to reduce their hours or give up work without additional or proper support to help them to continue to care. Last year, we also did hosted our Carers Parliament, and again, virtually. We hosted it over 3 days, and we were engaged with conversations and discussions with over 200 carers. And that we particularly focused on the proposed National Care Service, which government is of course consulting on and has been consulting on. And we did 2 days of workshops, as well as had speaker events and panel discussions, and again, the Minister for Social Security and Social Care and COSLA were involved in all of that. We have submitted responses to the government's consultation on the National Care Service. Throughout the last 12 months, we have continued to provide a strong voice for carers at the heart of government and the Scottish Parliament. We regularly get invited to give evidence to Parliament as experts. We respond to government and parliamentary consultations, drawing on the work that we have done with carers, the events like this where we hear the voice of carers, the research that we do, like the State of Caring report and the recent cost of living work that we've done. We make sure that we feed that all in to the government and Parliament to make sure that they hear as best as possible the views of carers. We meet regularly with government and ministers and MSPs to discuss and raise the issue of carers, and will continue to do so. And of course, we publish reports and briefings, and we raise awareness of these issues and the continued impact that carers face. And of course, we continue to work with lots of organisations in this space, particularly the national carer organisations, where I think we all work incredibly well together to for a strengthened sort of shared voice that shows the power of the voice of carers. So a really important partnership for us. I think it's worth just highlighting that the area of the work that we've obviously had to do an awful lot on is the impact of COVID. From the beginning, we have campaigned to ensure that carers have had the right information, the right support, and that things like PPE and the views of carers are considered in restrictions and protections that have been introduced. We've pushed for carers to be both prioritised for both testing and vaccination. And obviously, in 2021, a key part of that work was establishing an online vaccination registration for carers and young carers, so that carers knew where to get their vaccination and as much information as they needed about vaccinations. And obviously, we continued to develop dedicated information for carers about changes in government guidance and information that came out from government, and will continue to do so as we live with COVID. And of course, we campaigned for a COVID recovery strategy for carers, and we've started those conversations with government about what that looks like. I think everybody is fully aware that even though that many of the restrictions that governments across the UK are lifting, the issue of COVID hasn't gone away. It isn't going away anytime soon, and that many carers are very, very worried about what that means for them and how they live their lives. And we need a government that responds to that as quickly as possible and puts in place support for carers so that they continue to feel a little bit safer if they can, and can continue to provide the care and support that they need. Hugely important piece of work. And it's just in terms of the year ahead, it's again going to be another really busy year, I think, for our policy public affairs activity. We've talked about some of these at the summit today. New social security benefits. We've got carers assistance, which we're consulting on. There's the rollout of the adult disability payment and what that looks like and how that works. We're also involved in government advisory work around looking at a minimum income guarantee, which I think is really important work that should be explored. We talk about the importance of making sure that everybody has a minimum level of income to live, which is really important, especially when we talk about things like carers allowance, where so many carers are not entitled to those benefits, and people will struggle. So minimum income guarantee is definitely something we want to explore. I mentioned the National Care Service. That's fundamental. It's huge. I think we could all probably agree that our current social care system, if it isn't failing already, it has already failed. And we need radical systematic change in order to make sure that social care is delivered properly to support not just carers, but the people that they're caring for too. And that's a long way off because it's still 2026. We need immediate action really on that. So we'll continue to push and work with government to make the best of that proposed National Care Service. The carer strategy, again, we've talked about that today. It needs to be a really fundamental strategy. It needs to be a public health document. It needs to reach out across and connect all the different parts of the world which carers interact with, whether it's transport, whether it's social security or social care or healthcare. That carer strategy needs to be a fundamentally public health document. And we're also working with partners at Oxfam, looking to try and make or create a national outcome on care as part of the national performance framework. If we're really serious about supporting health and well-being of carers, then we need to be able to measure the benefits of care. So a national outcome would be a huge step forward in that direction. Nope, I don't know what I've done there. There. So as you can see, we've had a really busy year, and I think I'm confident in saying that this year is going to be even busier. as we strive to do so much more to support the charity's really ambitious Vision 2025 strategy, which I know Helen is going to update you on in a minute. I'm not sure how I'm doing for time because I've not put my watch on and I've got the full screen open. So I'd be more than happy to take questions if there are time. Equally, I am very happy to speak to anybody, any member, any carer about the work of Carers Scotland and what we've got planned for this year. I will post my chat in, I'll post my email in the chat, and I'm really happy if people want to drop me a line and to have a conversation with me, because I'm really looking forward to working with everybody here on the call and in the wider sector for our work in Carers Scotland. So thank you. Back to you, Flora. Oh, I need to stop sharing my screen, don't I? Otherwise, you'll get all sorts.
Okay. Thank you very much, Richard. It just shows you we need to keep talking. We need to keep providing evidence. There's a lot of work going on behind the scenes. I know sometimes it doesn't seem that we're making huge strides when the amount of money that people are getting in their pockets isn't a lot. But to be truthful, you've got to start somewhere, and we're never going to give up. So thank you very much, Richard. Okay, I'm now going to hand over to Helen Walker, who is our Chief Exec of Carers UK, and she's going to talk about the vision taking us through to 2025. And that is going to include one of our big objectives, which is working on promoting caring as the 10th protected characteristic. And if we can pull that one off, we'll be doing really well. Over to you, Helen.
Thanks, Flora. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for having me at the end of your summit today. Firstly, I'd like to add to Flora's welcome to Richard, our new Director of Scotland and Northern Ireland, and I'm really looking forward to working with Richard to develop our work in Scotland and Northern Ireland. I've very much enjoyed listening in for parts of the morning and delighted that the Scottish Government Carers Policy and Social Security Policy teams have taken this opportunity to come and talk to carers directly about their proposals and to give carers the chance to feed back their thoughts and ideas via the breakout sessions at the summit. I think that is so important. Last year, I was delighted to attend the summit and talk you through our ambitious new direction of travel, Vision 2025, which we started in earnest in April last year. This year, I'd like to give you a flavour of what we've achieved and what our priorities are for the coming year. Of course, we can't ignore the pandemic. It's been with us throughout, and it remains a huge influence in our lives and in our strategic priorities. As I said last year, the constantly evolving external environment meant that writing a fixed strategy was extremely difficult, and maintaining the flexibility of reactivity in Vision 2025 has enabled us to focus on areas that carers really needed us to when they needed it. And this year, as the new normal starts to unfold, I hope that we might take back a bit more ownership of the agenda and focus on some of our bigger goals and some of the things that we really want to do on behalf of unpaid carers. By way of a recap, Vision 2025 focuses our work on the three core areas that carers tell us matters for them the most: equality, support, and recognition, all of which are underpinned by income generation and impact, overseen by our new values, ambitious, attentive achievers, because that is how we have to work if we are to realise our goals on behalf of carers. Vision 2025 will take Carers UK to our 60th anniversary, and that's an important milestone we've set ourselves, to have carers better valued by society. As a national charity, we're also very mindful of the differences in the devolved parliaments in how they support unpaid carers, and it's an ambition of ours to take best practice from all the nations and support them into practice in the others. And I have to say that whilst it's not perfect, there has been a lot more best practice in Scotland during the pandemic than anywhere else in the UK. Under the equality pillar, we have the stated ambition, as Flora's just said, of making caring the 10th protected characteristic. And I thought I'd talk to you a little bit more about this and why we're doing it and what we've done in year one to start to make it happen. whilst this is a considerable ambition, by setting our sights high, we believe it will enable us to achieve much en route to the final goal, including addressing the long-standing issue of gender imbalance. In fact, simply talking about it in this context has a huge impact because it makes people think about caring and the challenges and inequality that many carers face. What do I mean by a protected characteristic? In essence, it would put caring in the same category as disability or race or gender or pregnancy, all things that legally you can't be discriminated for in, for example, the workplace. We think carers should be treated fairly and equally. And that last example of pregnancy or maternity leave perhaps also emphasises that caring may not be permanent. Many of us will care more than once in our lives. It's something that needs a world that provides flexibility around the changes in our life and those we care for. By making a legal responsibility to treat caring and carers fairly and equally, we could achieve much better support and recognition. It's a mechanism to explore how we can ensure we get carers more rights. But changing the law is a massive piece of work, requiring political buy-in and legal proof that carers are being discriminated against. So there are many steps on the way to that goal. But under the umbrella of this campaign, we can find new ways that deliver carers' rights. For example, our campaign to make carers leave a requirement for employers. We'd like this to be paid leave, but we'll start with unpaid. Many employers already provide this, and we need to hold them up as examples of best practice and show those in power that it doesn't cost them money. In fact, it saves them money. It keeps carers in the workplace if they wish to, by reducing recruitment and training costs. It builds loyalty to the company. It reduces time taken off as sick, because that's the only way you can justify taking the time the person that they care for needs to be taken to a hospital appointment, or that they themselves become unwell due to using their holiday for caring rather than looking after their own physical and mental well-being. We need to show employers the benefits of supporting carers in the workplace and treating them fairly and equitably, and also valuing some of the many skills they have because of their caring, like the tenacity to stay on the phone to the benefits department for hours on end to get whatever it is that they're actually entitled to. Let's also remember it's shockingly easy for carers' rights to be diminished or quietly removed. A perfect example of that right now is the Health and Care Bill in England. We've just beaten the government in one of its own bills in the House of Lords that would have taken away hard fought for rights at the point of hospital discharge in England. It's an example of attitudes that families should be expected to care, despite the cost to them, or indeed their ability to do so, that can easily prevail and set carers back decades. And that's particularly true of female carers, who still make up the majority of those who care, and which shockingly takes us back to the establishment of Carers UK in 1965 as the Council for the Single Woman and Her Dependents. Surely we should be moving forward, not backwards. To launch this campaign, I chaired a hugely successful roundtable, which was co-chaired by Caroline Waters, a Carers UK Vice President and Vice Chair of the Equality and Human Rights Commission in England. And this explored the legal requirements and the very difficult and challenging questions that we need to have the answers to if we're to be successful in getting the 10th protected characteristic status. And we have the Disability Law Service helping us to put together our case. Scotland can absolutely play its role in improving the rights of carers. There's the Scottish Human Rights Commission and also the Equality and Human Rights Commission in Scotland. There's a public sector equality duty, which requires the Scottish Government to pay due regard to the need to meet its obligations under the Equality Act 2010. So considering that, there are some things that we would really like the Scottish Government to do. For example, developing and delivering a carer poverty strategy, similar to the child poverty strategy, with clear, measurable aims, and building on that child poverty strategy to respond to the specific financial challenges that parents with a disabled child face. Scottish Government has said that they will incorporate the UN Convention on the Rights of Disabled People into Scottish law and policy. We again see this as an opportunity to enhance the rights of carers, and would urge the government to move quickly in doing this. And finally, to underline Richard's comments just now, we believe carers' rights at work can be improved in Scotland by requiring all bodies bidding for public contracts to be carer positive, in the same way as they need to sign up to paying real living wage. This would greatly improve the visibility of carers in the workplace across Scotland, reaching more employees in Scotland. But if we're to make caring a protected characteristic, we also need your eyes and ears. Please let me know if you found an example of where a protected characteristic would have made a difference. It might be something you hear about at your GP surgery. It might be something you see in a shop or experience yourself as a carer in the workplace. Do let us know, because the more examples we have of discrimination, the better. Staying with the equality theme, the cost of living crisis is hitting the UK hard in all 4 nations. Carers UK recently published research collecting the views of 3,500 unpaid carers, including nearly 300 in Scotland. The research found that 92% of carers have already seen their energy bills increase, and over half worry that oncoming increases in energy bills and other costs of living will negatively affect their own physical and mental health or that of the person that they care for. Many carers are talking about cutting back on their heating in order to afford their bills, and nearly a fifth of carers are already in debt with their providers. We know that unpaid carers often face additional costs associated with energy bills. It's common to have higher energy demands when caring for someone who's unwell or frail, to keep them warm and to help manage their condition. For example, medical equipment that uses electricity, which you simply can't decide to use less of if someone is dependent on it. If someone has an oxygen machine that they need 24 hours a day, you can't decide to have it on for 5 because you can't afford the electricity. It's not acceptable. The really worrying thing is that we know that more price increases are coming, and there has been very little done by both UK and Scottish governments to mitigate these increases. In Scotland, we've been working and pushing to provide more support, and it was really good to see extra money going to carers centres recently, as well as the announced 6% increase to the carers allowance supplement. However, many of the main levers for change are at UK level, including energy policy and levels of reserve benefits and inflation. Following the publication of the research, we've launched a cost of living campaign to get the UK government to increase carers allowance in line with current inflation predictions of 7.25%, as opposed to the 3.1% currently, which is effectively a real-time cut in benefits. We want to see them extend the Warm Homes discount scheme to ensure that it includes carers on the lowest incomes. We want to see a rise in the earnings limits for those claiming carers allowance, so that it is at least equal to 16 hours work at the national living wage. We are making the case for these changes directly with the UK government, but we've also launched a campaign to ask carers to write directly to their local MP. And for all of those of you who've already done so, thank you. And if you have yet to write to your MP, then please do so. And the team in Scotland here will make sure the details are shared either in the chat right now or after the summit today. And I can assure you that I will be listening closely to the Chancellor's speech, which is imminent, but I'm afraid I do so with very low expectations, in spite of lobbying incredibly hard for him to include carers and make the changes I've just mentioned. Under the support pillar of Vision 2025, we've continued to develop our online peer support sessions, Care for a Cuppa, which, as you heard from Richard, is now thriving in Scotland. As a UK-wide charity, it's so important for us to be rooted locally in the nations. So we're really pleased to see these Scottish sessions growing to support the challenges that you face on a day-to-day basis in your nation. We've also just moved the Carers Forum across to a new platform to make it more user-friendly and interactive so that people can get the help that they need when they need it by interacting with other carers online at any time of the day and night. The biggest piece of work that we've been doing on the support pillar in recent months is a massive review of our helpline function. You may remember that at the start of the pandemic, we quadrupled our telephone helpline overnight. We had a massive spike of inquiries, both to this and our email support, and our newly launched listening support service. This hasn't fallen away as we've moved through the different stages of the pandemic. And if we are to fund this level of support, we need to review how we're doing it, whether it's equitable and effective across all of the nations, and how we can ensure we future-proof it, particularly with analog switch off in 2025. I'm hugely excited by this review, and a report and recommendations will be going to an additional board meeting on the 17th of May. As the only national helpline for unpaid carers, I am determined that the various routes of and support, including our soon-to-be launched new website, are fit for purpose and support carers at the different stages of their journey and in their moments of need. The final pillar is recognition. Every time we launch a piece of research, every time we undertake media, we are quietly raising the profile of caring. but we will be looking to develop bespoke and very targeted campaigns over and above our existing ones. You will hopefully have seen our most recent campaign in Scotland to encourage all those who are caring in Scotland to tick the carers box on the census. I know it was Census Day on Sunday and most people will have completed their forms, but if you haven't yet, please make sure you tick yes to question 12 if you're providing unpaid care. The census data is hugely important as not only do they help us understand the number of carers who are out there, but it also helps government and others to plan for services and support. The campaign in Scotland mirrors those we ran in the other 3 nations last year. Our next big campaign will be Carers Week, and we launched its theme this week, making carers visible, valued and supported. This year's Carers Week is the 6th to the 12th of June, and we'll be launching it with a ministerial roundtable alongside our supporter charities on the 31st of March. The team in Scotland are already planning some exciting activity and will be making an announcement on that very soon. And lastly, on year 1 of Vision 2025, I'm pleased to report that our fundraising has enabled us to have stability and be ambitious in our plans. And we've developed our impact framework, as we promised to do, with a view to launching an impact report in 18 months' time. I'm incredibly proud of what we've achieved throughout the pandemic. And whilst we can always do more, and carers should quite rightly expect us to do more, I think our staff team have stood up and been counted. And they've worked extremely hard at times under extraordinarily difficult circumstances. And I'd like to say a massive thank you to them for doing everything that they can to make life better for carers. I hope that our next Carers Scotland Summit, we can report on some concrete progress on delivery of the key proposals we've been discussing this morning, but also on the areas of Vision 2025 that I've talked about today. And I hope that it'll maybe a hybrid event that enables those of us who wish to or are able to meet in person. Again, thank you so much for having me today. Laura.
Thank you, Helen. That was inspirational. Now, if anybody would like to put any questions to Helen about what she's talked about, can you put them in the chat and Richard will ask them of Helen.
Hi Flora, I've been monitoring the chat because there was quite a bit of discussion. The chat's been great today, actually. I'll just say that people have been having all kinds of conversations in here. There's been really good points being made by people up and down the chat. So thanks to everybody for doing that. And I picked up a few things, a lot of great support for the Protected Characteristic campaign. So that's good to see.
Great stuff.
Yes. So somebody suggested the idea of a carers czar, which I thought was interesting because obviously, as you know, in Northern Ireland, there's current proposals for a carers champion. And I just wondered what your thoughts were around is a carers czar or a carers champion something we want to see in every nation?
Absolutely. And then funnily enough, well, as you know, Richard, Richard and I were in Northern Ireland at their summit yesterday. And the beauty of this format is that we can dip to and from the different nations very easily and very quickly, and still be in our rooms at home. But yeah, I mean, Northern Ireland are first with that idea of a carers champion, and absolutely, I said at the outset that we want to take good practice from every nation into the other. I think that would be brilliant. I mean, I know that they have, for example, in Wales, an older people's commissioner. Obviously has a focus on carers, but it's not specifically to carers. And I'd very much like to see that. So yes, I think that's a brilliant idea. Be it a czar or a champion or whatever you want to call it, I will definitely support that. I think it's a great idea.
Good. And this is going back to the protected characteristic, because someone's asked a really sort of clear question about how can we get involved to help with that campaign?
Okay, so there's going to be lots more as we move forward. So this is a 5-year campaign, and I can almost certainly say that I it'll take longer than 5 years to get it into law. So there's going to be lots of steps along the way. But certainly at the moment, my ask to you is to give us examples and be willing to talk about them if you can, even albeit anonymised if need be, of where you have been discriminated against. That's the first ask, and just talk to the Carers Scotland team about those experiences that you've had being discriminated against, be it in the workplace or anywhere. So that's our first ask. As we develop the campaign, there will be many more opportunities to get involved in it. But also think about, as you talk about your caring responsibilities, talk about the fact that, it should be a protected characteristic. and explain that to people. Because one of the things that I found, I spend a lot of time, in Westminster, as you would expect, talking to lots of different people. If you mention it in the category of protected characteristic, it really shocks people to suddenly start thinking of caring in that way, and realise how people are discriminated against in various different contexts of their lives, and how wrong that could be, and how actually tomorrow it could be them, because any one of us could become a carer overnight. So I think it's just subliminally getting that message across. And I promise we will come and we will ask you for help as we move on and develop this campaign.
Actually, Helen, there's people been volunteering to send in their stories in the chat, and I posted my email address in the chat earlier. So if people want to scroll back, I'll happily take receipt of those and pass them on to the team in Carers UK, to make sure that we don't lose out on those stories. So thank you for that. I don't know, Flora, do we have time for another question?
Yes, I would say we've just got one more question.
Great. Well, actually, it's kind of related to this, because it was to do with working carers, and again, that's talking about how can we do more to support working carers. Lots of stories up here about discrimination, about people missing or having to change careers or even lose their career to become a carer, not having got the support to work and care. So what more can we do to support working carers?
Well, we run a programme called Employers for Carers, and that's not in Scotland yet. But there are many companies who are working in Scotland that are Employers for Carers members, and that provides them with information and advice, both for their HR teams, but also for individual carers who are currently working. Obviously, there's Carer Positive in Scotland, which I think is hugely important to be recognised as carer friendly and to be able to support people. I think in the workplace, again, it comes back, doesn't it, to this, we were just talking about the protected characteristic. It's about demanding your right to flexible working, and not having to give up work in order to care. I mean, before the pandemic, 600 people a day were giving up work to care. And that is a shocking statistic. And again, if you take that to government, where you're talking to the likes of the Department of Work and Pensions, for example, they want people in work. They don't want people taking benefits. But then it's counterintuitive, because the whole benefit system is designed to stop people working more than a certain number of hours. So it's incredibly difficult. So I think it's about having those open and honest conversations with your employer and trying to explain what being a carer means. And I think we're going to have to find more and more of this as we go back into this hybrid working, because I don't think, none of us know, and even at Carers UK, we don't know what hybrid working really looks like for us as an organisation. We're trialling it. We've got people coming into the office, but we don't really know what that looks like and how flexible we need to be, what people with caring responsibilities need from us. As you would expect, we give carers in our organisation 10 days paid care leave and give them as much flexibility as they need. But that's an exemplar employer in terms of carers. So we need other people to be like that, and we need to see those examples as well. I'm not sure if that answers your question, but it's the best I've got at the moment.
I think it was pretty good, so thank you. And I think that probably brings us up to the end of time, so we'll hand back to Flora.
Thanks, Richard.
Thank you so much, Helen. That was excellent. Thank you, everybody, for coming today. We really do respect the fact that you've given up valuable time to be here. We need to keep talking. We need to keep hearing from you. We need to keep interacting. So if people have got time, they can have an informal networking session now, which will be headed by Rhonda, who very expertly delivers our Care for a Cuppa sessions, rather. And you can carry on chatting and carry on telling your stories. Thank you so much for coming, and we'll speak to you soon.